out of the federal government, our kids' money, labor, and generating jobs today, of which by those jobs we pay back that money. That's the goal. To me, it's all about jobs. So the question then is, where do you get the most jobs for? So infrastructure things, shovel-ready is being used. Go build stuff. Okay, we can build new stuff, or we can retrofit efficiency of things. And so my own personal take is that I would do things that have the ability to make things more energy efficient. You solve environmental issues, you put a lot of people to work. As was pointed out in your presentation, that the jobs for energy, it turns out that the smaller energy things, whether it be energy efficiency in a home or renewable energy, generate a lot of jobs. It's because it's all the installation jobs or the manufacturing jobs that generate the wind turbines and whatnot. So, and all the maintenance and the parts. So clearly, infrastructure, but infrastructure that uses lots of energy. If you make that infrastructure now use less energy, and you put a lot of people to work, it solves a lot of problems. So that's why I'd say on that.
And I guess I would add also that as we move towards new types of technology, there's also going to be additional infrastructure development which has to do with grids, et cetera, and goes way above my meager understanding. But I know that it's going to be big money and that there's going to be more jobs generated as well as we move forward. I think what the world looks like today versus what it's going to look like 20 years from now is going to be very different. And I also, with regards to local initiatives, I think one thing you should think about is what is going on in your communities that is not necessarily good, what is going on that is good. Who do you need to talk to within your local communities? Oftentimes we ignore the local political process because it's not as exciting, about the city council members. They're managing a lot of money, and that's going to be money that goes or does not go into your neighborhood. And you have the opportunity, you're the little guy, you're the citizen. These big companies can come in and do whatever they want sometimes, and it may not be to your benefit. So those kinds of observations are important. It means spending a lot of time reading the paper and following up on what these guys are doing, but they serve you. So I don't have to give a plug for democracy.
Yeah, I would add on to that too, is that the advantage of small communities and things like that. Public transportation is transportation owned by the public. People own cars, the public owns the bus. Okay, so more buses is what we need as a public. We need metros, we need electric trains, we need all those kind of things. So you can get that at the local level, and because of the energy costs for particularly people that are at the lower economic levels makes up the higher part, get public transportation that removed that economic burden. So public transportation is something a community can really go at.
And it's really, again, it's good money and it has a lot of positive results. I unfortunately live in Glover Park, which is right adjacent to Georgetown. We have this amazing metro system in Washington, D.C. Well, it doesn't run in my neighborhood.
Oh, darn.
No, it doesn't run in my neighborhood because they had this NIMBY attitude, not in my backyard. So now everybody's crying because, obviously now we have a really serious traffic problem.
So now you have to drive to the metro. To the nearest metro. Anybody else, please? Okay, let me do like my president used to do. Boy, girl, boy, girl, boy, girl. Remember that? Okay. Let's do Nelson, and then we'll continue on.
Okay. Dr. Fenton, one of the things I'm interested in is, you're at the spearhead of this new technology in Florida. How is your organization working with labor unions that in some respects are going to play such a key role in implementing?
Well,
what kind of initiatives do you have?
The workforce development activity, okay, as we move into the point where we're trying to retrofit buildings and things like this, okay, you agree, it's a higher skill level job. Building a house is one thing. Going in and figuring out how to fix the house requires an extra above and beyond, right? And a huge amount of education going on, right? And I'm not talking about the PhDs and everything else. I'm talking about the 2-year educational time. Right? Now, in fairness, Workforce Florida and some of the labor entities in the state are actually paying for, since we run a banner workforce out of the Florida Solar Energy Center with about 8 community colleges and about 6 different unions on enabling people to be installing PV, getting them educated and trained. We're doing that now. And there's a market enough even now. So I think the new jobs and the technologies is going to be through that educational process. And of course, that's what we like to think universities are good at. Okay, we're talking about that. But it's that education. Okay.
And are the unions really catching on to that?
I think that...
Some more than others.
Yeah.
The electrical workers have
Right.
developed some programs that are amazing, and that's the thing. I mean, we need to, we as unions, and please don't shoot, need to learn that, our apprentice programs are not exclusive or little bastions for, nepotism. That don't shoot me. However, we also need to broaden our scope in terms of how we do the work that we do, because we have been shrinking in numbers. And what we learned is that the unions do pay better wages. When I was looking at the numbers, this was the slide I wanted to show you. Florida, when you look across the board, you have the lowest wages compared to the other states, including things like Virginia. With regards to, I think it's West, with regards to things like transportation, you make $12 an hour versus 13, 14, 15 in other states, and there is a correlation with union jobs and training and and the right to work state, etc. That's a whole other can of worms. If you guys want to fight right to work,
What feeling is?
I'll help you.
And another thing to point out is that when it comes to manufacturing jobs, Florida's down at the bottom.
Right.
I mean, we're agriculture, entertainment, what we are.
Sure.
Retirees, that's what we are. So I think there is then a lot more of these potential manufacturing jobs. And then the other issue too is that, if you want to think of it this way, energy independence kind of concepts, I could get into arguments about pluses and minuses of that, but you can't outsource that. I can't get somebody in China making us be energy independent. You have to do it here.
Right.
Okay, and so the other thing about this green light is a lot of it is local. It requires interaction, but it is a more local phenomenon. So that's another benefit to all this. I can't get somebody in Virginia installing PV panels on the roof here in Florida.
This is true. This lady had her hand up.
Yes, I would like to comment on your presentation because you talked about the Spanish-speaking community suffering all these problems of suits and, breathing diseases and whatnot. And most of the immigration that we have over here, and you have not talked about the educational level of the Spanish-speaking community, which I think is very important.
Of course.
In the state of Florida, for instance, the Spanish-speaking community has the highest percentage of high school dropouts. Any green energy, any green equipment that you are going to need, it requires, I would say, beyond high school education. So that is number one problem. When these immigrants come into this country, many Spanish-speaking, at least in Florida, they are even illiterate in Spanish. So how are you going to provide them with jobs that are going to make them, move level if they are, at the mercy of whatever it is the job that somebody wants to give them? But I would like to comment on the fact that you said that they have moved into these areas where they have high pollution. Well, they go to these areas because they are industrial areas. Right. And they are not suffering from these diseases any more than anybody that is living right there in those areas that are industrial. So we need to make that clarification. It is not yet that, all these plants and all this manufacturing are moving to the Spanish-speaking community. The Spanish-speaking community is moving there. I also would like to comment that when immigration is happening, it's not only because hurricanes, earthquakes, etc. Many people are moving, in particular in the Spanish-speaking world, because of corruption in their government. That's also one of the reasons, because also they have elected ideologies that are not very conducive to prosperity. And that's also one of the reasons why some of the immigrants are also moving. So if you have people moving into a country or in a state where we need to have what you call it bilingual education, you need to require to translate whatever it is that you're producing if you are a business to Spanish, because this is the labor that you are using. And if that person is having even difficulty understanding Spanish, and I can tell you that I know of companies that are going to visual only because they cannot even understand Spanish. That also costs money.